Hi, my name is Isaiah Higgins, and my presentation will be on solar panels. Specifically, if solar panels would be a good investment if you lived in Wisconsin. It's easy to just say everyone should install solar panels, or no one should install solar panels, they're just a waste of time and money. But the actual answer is a little more nuanced, so I'll be going over some more of the specific details. The main points I'll be covering are some of the main different types of panels on the market right now, your options for energy storage, local average costs, and their environmental impact compared to like coal or nuclear power. So how do solar panels work in general? Basically, light from the sun, made up of photons. The photons hit the electrons in the silicon atoms and knock them free. And then they travel through the silicon crystal into a conductor, and then through the conductor, usually to a DC to AC converter called an inverter, and that converts the direct current from the solar panel into alternating current that you can use in your home, or you can sometimes send it back to the grid. So what are some of the main types of solar panels on the market right now? Well, there are three main types: monocrystalline, polycrystalline, and thin film. Monocrystalline solar panels are the most efficient. They usually are around 15 to 20% efficient. That means 15 to 20% of all of the solar energy that hits the panel is actually converted into electricity. Monocrystalline solar panels usually appear black due to the purity of the silicon crystal that they're made out of. While they are the highest performing option in terms of efficiency, they're also the most expensive because they have to be cut out of a single pure silicon crystal. Next are polycrystalline solar panels. So the polycrystalline panels offer slightly less efficiency, normally more like 15 to 17%, and you can tell it's polycrystalline because they have a slight blue tint. The reason for the slightly lower efficiency and the blue color is because they're made up of multiple different silicon crystal fragments that are melted together into a wafer rather than like a single pure silicon crystal. Since this manufacturing process is less selective, it's much cheaper, making polycrystalline solar panels the most cost-effective option. Last up are thin film solar panels. So thin film solar panels are the most low profile option. The cells are about 350 times thinner than the polycrystalline or monocrystalline panels, but their efficiency is also the lowest, around 11%. Thin film solar panels can be made of several different materials, most commonly cadmium telluride, but you can also find amorphous silicon and copper indium gallium selenide panels. Next, I'll go over some of your energy storage options. You may be wondering, why do I need energy storage? Can't I just plug the panels directly into my home power system? Well, if you think about it, solar energy by nature is intermittent because the sun goes down every day. So this means you need a way to store the solar energy either after sunset or on days when it's not very sunny. There are a lot of interesting ways to store solar energy, but by far the most common for home solar systems is a battery bank, and I'll be going over some of the main battery types. The first and probably the most common battery type is lead acid. This would be the kind of battery that you find in your car, in like an electric scooter, and they're used for power supply backups for servers and stuff. Because of their ubiquity and simplicity, they are probably the cheapest option, and they're not necessarily the highest performing, but they're great if you just need a simple, low power solution. Next is lithium-ion batteries. These are probably the batteries that you'd find in your phone, or anything from a toy drone to an electric car. Lithium-ion batteries are great because they have a very high energy density, but they can also be pretty dangerous if you don't install them correctly. You might remember the Samsung Note 7 that was exploding in people's pockets back in 2016. They designed the battery case to be too small, so it was causing a short circuit, and they were literally like catching fire. But overall, if you can afford to get a good quality lithium-ion battery and get it installed correctly, they're a good choice for home solar installations. The last type of battery I'll be talking about are lithium iron phosphate batteries. These batteries are probably my favorite option for solar power storage because they have a very long life cycle, up to 4 times longer than lithium ion. They're easy to recycle, they're pretty safe, and cost effective. One downside is they aren't as energy dense as traditional lithium ion batteries, but they're still 4 times more energy dense than lead acid batteries. You can find lithium iron phosphate batteries in the lower end Teslas right now actually, because they don't require cobalt, and the technology has improved to the point where they still make sense if you don't need ridiculous range. Next, I'll talk a little bit about how much you can expect to pay for a home solar installation and how long it'll take to break even. I'm not gonna lie, solar panels are a pretty big investment, so it's important to know exactly how much it's gonna cost in your area. I would definitely recommend getting some quotes from local solar installers. On average though, a 5 kilowatt solar system will cost about $15,000. There's also a 26% federal tax break, so that brings the out-of-pocket cost down to $11,100. This is assuming you don't have any local solar incentives. With these numbers you can expect to break even in about 10 years, after which you're pretty much just getting free electricity. Another thing you might be able to take advantage of is net metering, which is where you essentially sell solar power that you're not using back to the grid. If you can do this or not depends on your local power company, and I know support in Wisconsin is a little bit dodgy, but it's definitely worth looking into because you can break even a lot faster and even potentially turn a small profit depending on your system. The next section is environmental impact. One argument people use against solar panels is that the energy and materials used to produce the panels themselves actually offset the environmental benefits that they produce over their lifetime. But this table from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, NREL, shows different energy sources and their emissions over their lifetime. If you look to the right, you can see the total life cycle number, and that's basically how many grams of carbon dioxide each of these energy sources produce per kilowatt hour of energy produced. We see that the second one, photovoltaics, which is just another name for solar panels, produce about 43 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, as opposed to coal at the bottom there, which produces over 1,000. And coal is Wisconsin's main energy source right now. You can also see geothermal energy with 37 grams of CO2, hydropower at 21, ocean at 8, and wind at 13. And these are all great options, but they're not as easy for home installations as solar. To close, considering the current availability of affordable solar energy generation and storage solutions, I think solar panels would be a financially sound and environmentally responsible addition to many U.S. households. In the case of where I live specifically, in Galesville, Wisconsin, I think probably a 5 or 6 kilowatt solar system would make the most sense, because net metering is probably not available and it would be inefficient to produce more power than we need. After researching the different options for panel and battery types, I'd probably go with a polycrystalline panel just due to their cost effectiveness, and we have plenty of roof space, so size isn't as much of an issue. And I'd probably go with lithium iron phosphate batteries for the energy storage. While there are definitely more efficient and effective options for energy production at scale, I think for residential power, solar panels are one of the best options. So if you have the capital or borrowing power to make the initial investment, I would definitely recommend looking into getting solar panels installed on your property. Thank you.